All right, so today we're going to be talking about pedestrian accidents. People get hit by cars all the time in Orlando, Florida, and throughout the country. These pedestrian accidents often involve serious and painful injuries because when a car makes contact with a person and slams them on the ground, there's nothing protecting that person from experiencing the full impact of that collision. Unfortunately, these people are often left with a pile of medical bills, and they have to miss a lot of days of work. So pedestrian accidents can place a huge financial burden on someone. And all this can happen in just a matter of seconds. Now, although we can't take away your pain and we cannot heal your injuries, we may be able to help you get compensation for what you've been through. Florida law allows people who have been hit by a car to pursue compensation through a personal injury claim. And this can be a great option for folks that find themselves in a tough financial situation because of a negligent or reckless driver. There's a lot of reasons why people get hit by cars. For example, drivers often hit pedestrians because the driver was not being attentive and failed to see the pedestrian. And this happens at night a lot and in areas that aren't well lit, like dark parking lots. Sometimes it may not be the driver's fault, but more often than not, a driver that is paying close attention to what's in front of the vehicle could avoid hitting a pedestrian. Another big reason for pedestrian accidents is reckless driving. Drivers who are more focused on saving time than being safe behind the wheel are more likely to engage in aggressive driving maneuvers that can lead to a pedestrian accident. For example, a lot of pedestrian accidents happen when a driver speeds up to make a yellow light and ends up flying through the intersection when the light is red and the pedestrian is properly crossing the road. Along the same lines, another major cause of pedestrian accidents is when drivers fail to yield for pedestrians at the crosswalk. Now, this often happens because the driver is in too big of a hurry or is distracted. And when I say distracted, we're talking about things like scrolling through social media on a cell phone, or sending text messages, or fumbling around with a Maps application. The point here is that a person should be on the lookout around crosswalks. If they're not and they hit someone, they may be liable for the damage they cause. So what should you do after a pedestrian accident in Orlando, and why does it matter? Well, the actions you take after a pedestrian accident can affect your case if you choose to pursue a personal injury claim later on. Thus, you need to be prepared to take the right steps so that you don't diminish your chances of getting the compensation you're entitled to. So there's some big steps you should consider taking right after an Orlando pedestrian accident to make sure you don't mess up your potential case. First of all, you should go get medical treatment if you're hurt. And this is a good idea for several reasons. For example, in the aftermath of an accident, your adrenaline may mask the pain of an injury. And so you may be seriously injured and not know it until the next day. Another good reason to get medical treatment right after your pedestrian accident is to have your injuries documented. Insurance companies love to say that your injuries are a result of something else other than being hit by the car. So if you get your injuries documented right after that pedestrian accident, you take away one of the insurance company's favorite arguments. Also, after your pedestrian accident, and this is a big one, you should do your best to say as little as possible. And overall, avoid discussing your case with anyone other than your lawyer. Don't say anything to the other driver or anyone else at the scene of the accident that could be construed as an admission of fault. Also, don't speak to the at-fault driver's insurance adjuster without talking with your lawyer first. The insurance companies love to get recorded statements after an accident, and they love getting these statements before you get an attorney. The purpose of that statement is to get you to say something that they can use to deny or minimize your claim, so you need to be very careful. Along the same lines, do not post about your accident on social media. In fact, don't post anything on social media. The defense team has a right to see what you posted after your accident, and they'll be looking for anything they can use to deny or minimize your claim. So, stay off social media after you get hit by a car. Also, after your pedestrian accident, you should speak with an Orlando pedestrian accident lawyer as soon as possible. That way, you'll have someone there to guide you through your personal injury claim that will help you to avoid some of the common pitfalls we've talked about. Your lawyer will know exactly what to do, and they'll help you get the compensation you're entitled to under the law. Now, let's talk about some of the common injuries people suffer after an Orlando pedestrian accident. Some of the most common injuries will include road rash and serious scrapes, broken bones, internal injuries and internal bleeding, and traumatic brain injury, or TBI. Depending on the severity of these injuries, this could cause a person problems for days, weeks, years, or even the rest of their life. Moreover, these injuries are not just expensive in terms of medical bills and lost wages, but they can also take a mental toll on a person and affect their overall quality of life. So what kind of compensation can you expect after you get hit by a careless or reckless driver? Well, let's talk about the damages a person might seek compensation for. Damages in Florida can be divided into economic damages and non-economic damages. Economic damages are tangible damages that have a definite value. Economic damages for a pedestrian accident in Orlando might include things like the cost of past and future medical treatment, like emergency room treatment, surgeries, rehabilitation, and ambulance rides. Economic damages might also include missed work and lost wages. If you want to think of it this way, economic damages are things you can get a receipt for or an invoice for. In other words, they're quantifiable and they can be put down on paper pretty easily. Non-economic damages are damages that aren't so easy to quantify. They're intangible. So, for example, in an Orlando pedestrian accident case, your non-economic damages might include things like pain and suffering, emotional distress, and loss of enjoyment of life. Here, we're looking at how an injury has affected a person and what a person has been through as a result of that injury. Because non-economic damages don't come with a receipt or an invoice and they're difficult to quantify, sometimes you may need an expert witness to really put this stuff down on paper and give you that hard, solid number. Here's a big question people have. How much is an Orlando pedestrian accident case worth? Another way to ask this is, what's the average settlement for an Orlando pedestrian accident case? Well, that's not an easy question to answer because every case is going to be unique. However, there's a number of factors we look at in every pedestrian accident case to help us determine the value. For example, we look at the severity of the injuries. We also look at the medical bills and lost wages. And we'll also look at how a person's injuries have affected them. Now, one factor that is often the limiting factor in determining the value of an Orlando pedestrian accident is the insurance policy involved. Now, most people don't have sufficient assets to pay for damages. So the insurance policy can decide how much money a person can get for their injuries. In Florida, drivers are not required to carry bodily injury coverage. Nonetheless, many drivers are carrying $10,000, $25,000, $50,000, or even more in bodily injury coverage. And if a driver negligently injures you, that bodily injury policy could provide you with compensation. Even if the driver doesn't have coverage, or if the driver flees the scene of the accident, you may be able to seek compensation through your own uninsured motorist coverage. So it's always a good idea to call your insurance company and ask them about uninsured motorist coverage, because that is a real lifesaver in the event that you're hit by somebody who doesn't have insurance or who does not have enough insurance. So how can an Orlando pedestrian accident lawyer help you? Well, first of all, your lawyer will work to gather and preserve evidence to make sure you can build the strongest case possible. We like to send out letters of preservation right away to make sure that valuable evidence is not lost or destroyed. For example, newer vehicles have black boxes, which store data about what the vehicle was doing at the time of the crash. However, this data is not stored forever, and it can be erased if it's not preserved and downloaded quickly. In the same way, nearby businesses may have cameras that recorded the accident. However, like black box data, camera footage may be erased or destroyed if not properly preserved. So, you want to make sure you get those letters of preservation out as soon as possible. Another way an Orlando pedestrian accident lawyer can help you is by negotiating with the insurance companies to make sure you get the maximum value for your claim. Insurance companies have one goal: to pay you as little money as possible, and they want to pay you nothing if they can get away with it. Having a lawyer by your side can help to ensure that you get the compensation you're entitled to. Finally, an Orlando pedestrian accident lawyer can take all the stress of dealing with the legal claim off your shoulders so that you can focus on your recovery and getting back to doing what you need to do. We handle pedestrian accident cases for a living, so we know exactly what to do, and we can deal with the insurance companies so you don't have to. Also, we take cases on contingency, which means you don't have to pay anything up front. We don't get paid unless we get you money, and so our interests are aligned. Well, that's all I have for you today. If you'd like to speak with an Orlando pedestrian accident lawyer at our office, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're happy to give you a free legal consultation and talk with you about what happened. All you have to do to schedule your free consultation is give us a call at the number below in the video description. Or you can look us up at www.carelessdriver.com. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you next time.